welcome to Conversations About a Brighter Way.
And I'm Adam Grant, the Executive Director of A Brighter Way.
And we will be your hosts for this season, which is entitled Welcome Home. We'll be talking with people about their experiences re-entering society post-incarceration. What does that feel like?
Honestly, that first 4 days, it was almost as bad as being in a prison.
What challenges did they face upon release?
Did 30 interviews, and every one of them offered me a job, and every one of them rescinded it once they ran it up the flagpole, despite the fact that I had been honest and forthright.
And what resources they found to help them navigate their path towards a brighter way.
Family and friends, those were the most valuable resources. Knowing that, like he said, I'm not doing this alone.
Let's get to our episode, and this week we will be speaking to Q about their experience. I want to take this moment to thank you for sharing your story with us, so thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing me.
May I have your name again, and how long were you incarcerated, and how long have you been out?
My name is LaQuan Hill. I've been incarcerated for 16 years, and I've been out roughly 50 days. I stopped counting. I had a 2-month mark, and I stopped counting from there. I just stopped counting. It didn't matter.
Yep. Walk me through getting out. I want to know about the entire day, like what time you got up, who picked you up, and what did you see, and what did you eat?
Well, I'm going to start the night before.
Oh, great.
I couldn't sleep. I was watching TV. It was pretty much watching me. I had 1,001 ideas and plans I'm going through, goals, how to accomplish those goals. So my mind was never at ease. So I stayed up all night. And that morning, around about 5, I got my outfit ready. I gave away some other items that I no longer needed. And I just sat in my cell looking out the window.
What are some of the things you gave away?
I gave away my MP3 player, my JP5, my big radio, my CL20 headphones. These are hot items. So I gave away clothes, I gave away shoes, I gave away a coat, I gave away bowls. Let me see, what else did I give away? I pretty much gave away everything because I told myself I was not taking nothing with me except personal items, mail, pictures, and stuff like that. But I gave away a lot of informative information, some books, some quotes, things that were helping me. I just walked around and picked individuals that I really didn't know, but I said, here, man, I think this would be for you. Here, hey, I thought I seen you reading this book. Read this book, So I didn't really know anybody when I went to that facility. So it was kind of good for me because in my mind I was going to play it like, well, I'm going to give it to this friend, to that friend, or to this guy who really doesn't have support like I do. So I'm going to try to help him out. But I didn't have that opportunity per se because I didn't have to, I guess, choose between what friend was going to get what. It was just random. So I think it worked out that way.
Yeah, let me interject something here too, because a lot of times when people are listening, they're not understanding what this means. Mm-hmm. Everything that we're talking about doing is frowned upon.
Yes.
You're not supposed to be giving anything to anybody else, but this is exactly the situation. There's restitution and things like that. Some people can't afford headphones. There's no speakers in your radios in there. There's no speakers in a TV in there, things like that. They can't afford a coat. So what the state coat that they give you is basically the shell without the actual coat that gets around it. That's what a state coat is. So giving someone an actual coat is a very big deal that can last them for years.
Sweatsuits.
Yes. Yeah. So this idea, this is one of the things that people have to transition when they come out here too, is this idea that doing all those things are a bad thing. You're not supposed to be giving people things. And out here being able to give, is seen differently.
Let's see. Are we at the point of
leaving? Not yet.
Not yet.
Because this was like between 5 and 7. and they told my ride to be there at 8:30, I believe, or 8 o'clock or something like that, right? So time, whoa, it went so slow. I've never really paid attention to time like that to the day that I was leaving. So so I had to ease my mind somehow because I was just going every which way. So we wasn't allowed to go outside at that time. But I asked one of the COs, "Hey man, can I get some fresh air? I'm, kind of not feeling myself." He was like, "Yeah, go ahead." I said, "I'm gonna walk a couple of laps." And I walked a couple of laps and I just took in everything that was prison. And I told myself I'm not going to forget this. I looked at everything, the bricks, the cracks in the sidewalk, the air, the birds, the sky, the lunch, the chow hall, the rec building, the other buildings where everyone is housed. I looked at everything and I made it a part of me so I would never forget. And I just did that and was just thinking like, wow, I came a long way. And I got overwhelmed. I got overwhelmed a little bit. I shedded a tear, which was good. It was a release. Mm-hmm. And it was just an exhale moment.
It sounded like you were saying goodbye to that part of you.
Definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what about the pickup?
Okay, so a best friend of mine I called him, and I had told him when I was at another facility, I said, "Look, man, I don't want y'all to," well, I told my mom first, told my mom, I don't want y'all to rent a car to come pick me up way up north. I'm going to take a bus. In my mind, I thought I needed that time to decompress, if you will. And so I called my friend. I told him what my plan was, and he was like, "No, man, you ain't about to catch no bus. I'm coming to get you wherever you're at." And I'm like, "No, man, I don't want you to spend no money, let me do this." And he was like, "No, I'm not hearing it." So I got transferred closer, further in the state. And I called him, and he's pretty much, "Okay, well, what time I need to be there?" Oh. And I told him I wasn't even going to argue anymore. It was like, okay, come on. So when I told him, he was there. But again, in my mind going 1,000 miles per hour, I had to call him to make sure, "Where you at? Are you out there? I want you to be there soon as I get out, type deal." And he was like, "Yeah, man, I'll be pulling up in a minute." And my best friend is Adam Grant. And he was there. He about to get me teary-eyed. He's probably about to start crying too, but yeah. So I'm sitting in the control center, and it's like a little holding cell, and I'm in street clothes, but they are street clothes that were bought inside the prison. And I'm fidgeting. I'm looking around. I'm looking at everyone, and I'm the only one being released at that time too. Mm-hmm. Then another gentleman comes up, and
them clothes fit terribly too.
Oh my God, didn't they? So I'm sitting there and I'm watching everything, and then he leaves. So now it's anxiety in me. Like, okay, well, I came up here before him. Why is he being processed before me? Then one of the corrections officers came and called my name, and they made a little, I guess, ceremonial gesture. They called my name real loud. "LaQuan Hill, inmate 374-725. It's out of here," type deal. And then I had to keep repeating my number in every step. So they had to show my ID. All of this process was building up anxiety. Like, oh man, this is real. This is real. This is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And when I got through the first set of doors, I was able to see outside. Mm-hmm. And it was like, whoa. And then when I went through the final door, oh man.
You gave me goosebumps.
I'm choking up because I made it. My whole life is in front of me now.
Right.
And my best friend was there. We embraced. We both cried. And then he reminded me. He said, "Man, come on, let's get out of here." And I needed that. I needed that at that moment because when I stepped out, I looked around again, and when we did embrace and were just full of emotions, He snapped me back and said, "Come on, man, let's get out of here. Let's go." And it was like, "Yeah, let's go." Where? Okay, let's do it. And my whole life was in front of me.
I knew he didn't fully recognize it because one of the things that he kept saying he says, "Is this real?"
Yeah.
Is this real? Yeah, this is real. And he was like frozen. And that's why I knew I had to snap him out. It was like Cesar Millan doing the psst. I was like, let's go, man. We ain't got to be here doing this. Let's do this somewhere else.
Right.
What was his eyes like? Was his eyes focused or was it?
No, it was when he says, "Is it real?" There is a surreal component to this. And it's almost like, am I dreaming? Can I trust this? Am I going to wake up at some point in time and be back in that same cell on that same narrow, hard, lumpy ass mattress?
Yes.
And so I could see it because he came out, pissed me off too, because a person who I parked in a spot so that as soon as he walked out the door, he was going to be able to see me. And I parked in this spot because it says reserved for parole board member next to me. I know parole board's not coming up in person, so ain't nobody gonna park there. Man, somebody shoots into that spot, parks in front of me with a big old minivan. I can't see the door, so I don't see him until he gets to the end of the sidewalk.
And I didn't see him. I'm glad he remembered that. So when I walk out, I didn't see him.
Oh, and your anxiety, how was it?
Oh, man, it was through the roof. Like, what? I thought you said you was out here. And then when I seen him, I just broke down.
Right.
But I have to say this. He was dressed up like a senator or some type of parole agent with a black trench coat and a skull cap, and I'm like, what in the hell? But I said, okay,
whatever. Here's my ride.
Ain't no doubt. Yeah.
That's my executive director look. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, now what about the food? What did you eat that day?
We made a stop at McDonald's. He asked me, no, this was the first thing. He gave me a wallet, right? A real wallet. In prison, you get man-made wallets. Now, there are some very talented individuals. So I had this old crusty wallet that I hadn't had in a while, and he gave me a wallet, and it had some cards in it, and it had money in it, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, looking at the money, just looking at the money, it was like, wow, is this real? Because it was different from what I was accustomed to. And I'm like, no, man, you don't have to do that. I was very appreciative, but I was also, I felt awkward, receiving it. But he was like, hey, you want a coffee? No, he was drinking. He had a coffee, and he had a coffee and a juice for me. And he was like, you want a coffee? I said, yeah. He said, reach in the back. Grabbed a soft drink, drinking on his coffee. He said, you hungry? I'm like, yeah, I'm always hungry. So he said, you want some McDonald's? What you want? And I said, yeah, McDonald's is fine. And we pulled up in McDonald's, and I ordered a sausage egg McMuffin, and it was so good.
Can you still taste it in your mouth?
Yes. Yes.
See, there you go. There you go. There goes your Barry White voice when we're talking about food. He said,
yeah.
"Oh yeah."
That's good. So I had a McDonald's, and we went on to his place, and so I can meet his wife, and that was lovely, nice home. And I was still kind of awkward, didn't know what to do with myself, You
probably felt just out of context because
it was
right.
Yeah,
didn't know your place yet.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure that first day was just surreal, and
it was overwhelming.
Yeah, I can imagine. Have you processed it? Do you think?
I have. I regularly reflect on my day. What went wrong? What are things I need to approve in? What things I could have did better? What I did right, and what is my next day going to look like? And throughout that, I processed a lot of my emotions. I started to ask the important questions. Why am I feeling this way? How can I overcome this? Would this happen again? If it does happen again, how would I respond appropriately? Am I responding appropriately? Is this normal what I'm experiencing? All these types of thoughts went through my mind. But he told me, you're going to be experiencing things, and just let it happen. You have to feel them. You have to feel them. You can't just shut them out. And that's what I've been doing. So I reflect, and I acknowledge what I'm experiencing, and I'm never going to forget it.
Let me share a part of his first day too, because he gave me some of the reflections, because we did talk about this a lot. One of the things that happens is when you don't know, you fill in the blanks. And there's a lot you don't know when you're in prison and you're getting ready to get out. You don't know what's going on, but you also think that the whole world knows that you just got out of prison.
And I'm still experiencing that.
Really? Okay.
So one of the things that I wanted to do is, this is what we do with mentoring. This just happens to be my best friend, but that's what friendship is too, is its own form of mentoring, and it's a reciprocal thing. So I wanted to do this very consciously when he came home, because I wanted him to have a warm welcome. When you leave, they usually tell you, don't come back, good luck, stuff like that.
Or I'll see you again.
Or I'll see you again. They're quick to say that too. So I wanted to give him a warm reception, because he's my best friend. I've been talking to everybody about him. Everybody knew Q before he came home. So we stopped. He'd met my wife before, but it was in a visiting room. And in a visiting room, you're not allowed to interact with each other. You're literally not supposed to talk to somebody else's visitors, which you do. But you can only do it to a certain degree, and it's unnatural. So I wanted him to have that more natural opportunity, and so she could give him a hug and things like that. So that was the first place we stopped. The next place we stopped was my previous job at Home of New Vision, because I'd already been hyping him up because he was going to get a job there.
Yes.
And so he got a chance to meet everybody there, and he got to meet people from the recovery community. And it was interesting because he had a reflection, and he understood that he felt welcomed, but he also knew that these people had been through some stuff.
Right.
And so it didn't have the same impact. Then we stopped at the office for a brighter way, and he got to meet Jeannie and Colleen.
Yeah.
And go ahead and share your experience of that.
Okay, so like he said, when we went to New Life, what is it called?
Home of New Vision.
Home of New Vision, I'm sorry. And they were welcoming, but like you said, they had similar experiences. But when we went to a brighter way, they welcomed me as if I was a family member, and hugged me, welcomed me, said, welcome home. And it felt as if they knew me all my life. It was kind of awkward, but I felt the love. I felt the genuineness. And it gave me another moment, I wasn't tense. I wasn't.
Exhale moment.
Yeah. They didn't see me as the criminal, the prisoner, the inmate, the felon. They see me as a person. They didn't express it with words, but it was the feeling that I got from it.
Let me add to that too, because there's context to this
goes.
too, because we talk about these things on a regular basis. One of the things that I talk about, regularly, is my understanding of my own white privilege. And that takes place whether we realize it or not. But that also means that there's juxtaposing that against what it is to be a black male in the society or something of that nature. You process things different because your experiences are different.
True.
So I want to share this component of it too, because afterwards he was like, one of the things that impacted him was when he goes to Home of New Vision, it's people who are in recovery who've been through some stuff, and he understands that. And so people with scars recognize one another, and it makes it a little bit easier, which is one component of a brighter way, which is extremely important, because then I don't have to explain this stuff to you. You understand it. But the part about it is when he met Jeannie and Colleen, these are two professional white women that he's wondering when he's coming out here how the world is going to perceive him, and that is a example of it. And so he came there, and all of a sudden he got this warm welcome, because that's who they are. That's what we do. That's who we know. People are people, and we've all made mistakes. And some people's scars just don't show as readily. We've all been through some stuff.
Right.
So it was important because he really reflected. You could tell that kind of really impacted him in a way that was different. He expected my wife to give him a hug. He expected Shannon at home in New Vision, to give him a hug. He didn't expect one from Colleen and Jeannie when he got to the office. He was like, wow. And it was genuine.
Yes. And in your mind, you already come up with this idea that people are going to be standoffish. Oh, you're a bad guy. You're a criminal, whatever. And it was none of that. I mean, none of that. And like you said, the component of race, yeah, I have to be truthful. I'm like, okay, these two white men, and I'm a bigger black guy with that stigma, but it was like color was no issue. Class was no issue. My past was no issue. It was like, hey, cuz, oh, hey, nephew. And I was like, yeah, okay.
That's really cool. I'm really glad you got to experience that. And
it was very important.
Yep, exactly.
Definitely.
So what challenges did you face getting out?
My very first challenge was the social awkwardness. I had a lot of crying spells. Then I called Adam about it and told him about it. He was like, yeah, I cried all the time, because I thought this was like kind of abnormal. I didn't foresee this. So the challenging part was controlling my emotions and taking everything in. Another thing that I noticed about myself was my senses. Everything is brighter. The smells. We went to a department store when we went in through the area where all the perfume is at, and I got overwhelmed and I got sick to the stomach. And I've never got sick to the stomach going inside a mall, going through the perfume and cologne department. So basically, there was really no physical challenges because I was past this. I am truly blessed to have a support system. I'm truly blessed to have a best friend. I'm truly blessed for A Brighter Way and their program, what they stand for. So from the physical aspect of, or material, if you will, challenges I didn't have. The challenges was all within, trying to control my emotions and tapping into what I've been taught, what I've learned. So, yeah.
And that's pretty regular. And it's, I want to keep injecting this because this is extremely important. A lot of programs are based on a case management style.
Right.
We're not talking about cases. We're talking about people. Cases don't cry. People do. It's healthy to do so. We were placed in an environment where that was not. It was frowned upon. It wasn't something that you did on a regular basis. I joke that my first crying therapy was watching a show called Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
Oh, it gets me too.
And so I would literally watch this, but I would roll over onto my side so my back was to everybody else so that they could not see me, tearing up. I got to the point where I could, but everybody doesn't have that opportunity to kind of do that or the amount of time. Remember, I did 27 years. He did 16 years. You get some time to get comfortable with some of this stuff. If you're doing 5, you might not shed a tear the whole time you're in there.
True.
So this is extremely important. And to have somebody who's been there, who's experienced some things and who says, no, that's what you need to do. You need to slow down. You need to process that. You need to allow yourself to feel it because, like I said, you fill in the blanks. This is what's going to happen and this is how I'm going to feel about it. And then it happens and you feel some different way and you're like, well, that was some bull. What was that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How did you find housing?
Again, like I say, I'm blessed to have a support system. My mother opened her home for me and just showered me with love. Yeah, I have my own little room, my own big bed, a real big TV. So yeah, I was blessed.
What about a job?
Okay, so the job aspect, I told myself before I actually got released, maybe about 2 or 3 years, I came up with this plan. And of course, I went through it 1,001 times trying to think of all the what ifs. And I told myself, well, what is the very first thing I need to do? I said that I need to obtain my license. I have to have license. I have to have a car, reliable transportation in order to get the job. Now, of course, I had contingency plans that if I don't obtain reliable transportation, I was going to use the city bus. And I said, okay, well, what do I actually need to be successful? And that's what it was. I had to get my license. I got my license and I had to find a car. I ended up finding a car, which my best friend helped me to purchase, still owing. He might not never get it. But
remember, we already talked about penitentiary rules on it. Don't make me double that.
Right. So I started job searching, filling out applications here and there. But again, I was blessed to have a lot of family members who were working in higher positions that can give me a recommendation or help fast track me in. But I didn't utilize it like I should. I took them in, said thank you. I added to my list of jobs, and luckily my parole agent called me and said, I think this place would be good for you.
Oh, great.
And I found out what they were making an hour, and I said, yeah, I want it. I didn't ask where it was at, what type of environment, what would I be doing. I didn't care, because you got to think about it. I came from prison. I had almost all the jobs in prison and was making crumbs, literally crumbs. So it didn't matter what I was doing. I mean, there's times where I was working as a porter, cleaning the bathrooms, and it was for 54 cents a day or something like that. I can't really remember the pay rate, but it was nothing. So I already told myself years ago, I don't care what job I get. Pride is not an issue. I don't care if it's a fast food. I don't care if it's busting tables. I don't care if it's just picking up trash on the side of the road. It doesn't matter. I need to earn some money.
We used to joke about that in the employment class.
Yes.
I'd be like, I'm the one that'll be 50 years old, say, would you like fries with that? With a smile on my face is genuine.
And I agreed. It didn't matter. I told myself it doesn't matter what job you first get, because it's a stepping stone, So I know I needed income, and my parole agent called me and said, yeah. But what I later found out by when I did the interview was it was what I did inside, because she told me that normally when a person is recommended, it's the best, right? And then she broke down all the accomplishments. I never sent her nothing of my portfolio or nothing. My parole agent did that. So everything that I did inside paid off, and it's been paying off ever since. So yes, I am employed. ×2 now.
Yeah, I was going to say, you might only have one job if you don't speak a little bit on that too.
No. So while in prison, Adam was telling me the things that he has been accomplishing. He too found a job that was providing service. That's him. It's me. So when he told me about the company that he was in, the program that he was in, not A Brighter Way, it was the
Home and New Vision.
Home and New Vision, and what they did, I said, oh man, that's me. I want to do that. And what he explained to me was, man, I'm doing the same thing that I was doing in there.
Yeah.
So he transferred those skills to out here. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I can do that too. He was like, yeah, I know you can. I'm bringing you along. And at first I was like, huh? He was like, yeah, I'm bringing you along. And I said, okay, let's do it. Then he ended up getting with A Brighter Way, and he started telling me all the good things that program was doing for formerly incarcerated individuals. I said, yeah, that's it. And when he told me the individuals that he was impacting and helping, and then I was like, yeah, okay. So he said, well, when you get out, depending on how things going, I'm going to pull you in too. We need you here. And I said, I'm there, best friend, I'm there. Wherever you need me, I'm there. And when I came home, when I got that warm welcome, I knew it then. I made my decision then. because, in prison, I'm thinking I got to have some form of income. I can't rely on this, can't rely on that. I got to do it myself and all this and all that. Pride issue, I guess. And my best friend actually threw that past that and wasn't really buying none of that and was like, no, come on. So when I got that job, he was like, okay, all right, that's cool. But I want you to think about the career. I want you to think about the things that you actually love to do. Mm-hmm. So when it was able for them to hire me, I did it. And I want to share this. The very first day, I met an individual who was incarcerated for 44 years, I think it was, and learned his story. And when I found out all the services that A Brighter Way provided for him and seeing him, if I would have never known that he was a prisoner or an ex-con or a person that just returned back to society, because they provided such a beautiful service that you can't see it. And finding out everything that they did for him and seeing the impact that it did, I can't really describe it in words. It was a feeling. It was the glow in his face. Can you imagine 44 years and up in age a little bit? He probably is not going to like me saying this when he hears that, but...
Oh, I'll say it. He's more than up in age. He's
right.
Old.
Yeah, but can you imagine that?
Not at all.
Without support?
No.
Wow.
Right.
And that's what makes A Brighter Way so beautiful. And then I had the chance to get a small glimpse of that joy and that happiness. And I helped a couple individuals. They came in, but a guy in particular, a juvenile lifer, came in. And I was changing to go to my second job. And I'm in the bathroom changing, and I hear him talking about employment, that he was working with this temp service and that temp service. And he was, kind of uneased by the inconsistency. And I said, wait a minute, I can get you a job where I'm working. And I told him what to do. He did it. And he will be starting with me on Monday. And then he called me and thanked me. And to hear the joy in his voice, it was all worth it. It was all worth it. Yeah. If I don't help anyone else, which I know that I am, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Right.
I'll share another example of that too, because I think that's hugely important. It's one of the things that we can't always quantify. We can't always explain what it is we do or how it necessarily impacts somebody. We had another mentee who's had some housing situations, and he's living a little bit more rurally now. He doesn't have transportation. He's relying on his girlfriend's transportation, things like that. Hasn't been able to find really gainful employment yet to this point in time. I mean, there's a lot of challenges. And so one day he gives me a call and he says, listen, man, I don't know how I'm going to get to work tomorrow at 10:30. And I wasn't coming down here that day, so I couldn't pick him up. I said, give me a minute. I said, I'll make some phone calls. I called 5 people. Within 5 minutes, all 5 of those people called him.
Beautiful.
It wasn't the ride that helped to impact him. It was the fact that 5 people cared about him enough. 5 people who didn't know him, but he's a part of this community. And that's a part of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build here is this opportunity that communities, we take these things for granted. When you come home from prison, you've been a part of a community. We're best friends because we were doing work in there, because we were on the same level. We were on the same mindset. We're gonna change people's life for a positive. We did damage. Now we can do some repairs.
Yes.
But you come from that environment to an environment that you're not sure if it's accepting you or not, and you don't have a community. A Brighter Way creates a community so a person has that from day one, and they know they don't have to do it by themselves. Our side-by-side model is exactly that. We do this. This is crazy. It seems like simple things. We got a desk. Guy got a job. You got to have a desk. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
Oh, I'm not going to talk about how long it took you to put it together.
Oh,
We're going to leave that part about out of that story.
that's not funny.
Did you go to IKEA?
I don't know where he went.
No.
But it was made by monkeys.
Right. But we were even talking about this and the natural inclination when you create a desk situation. We've always been taught that we put this desk out a certain way. And when somebody comes in that you're working with, they sit on the other side of the desk. We're so far from that in a brighter way that we sat it in the corner because we don't ever want a separation between our mentors and our mentees, between our volunteers and our staff. It's about relationships. And we don't want to create any false barriers between the two. And that may seem like a really small thing, but the small things are the things that make a difference. There's plenty of agencies out there doing the big things, and they don't make the impact that they should because they don't do any of the small things.
Right. And people that are formerly incarcerated, this is what we pay attention to. We pay attention to all the small things.
So what resources did you find that helped you?
Family and friends. Yeah, my best friend, I keep saying
This ain't gonna get you a raise, man.
it should, but resources. It wasn't really the monetary things. It was more of the mentoring, the spiritual and mental support. Those were the most valuable resources. Knowing that, like he said, I'm not doing this alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's more impactful than anything else. You automatically think you got to do this all by yourself. And that's stressful.
Overwhelming, I would imagine.
It is.
Right.
It is. Especially if you come from an environment to where you've established some type of routine or character, if you will. And now you're being tossed back into society to where you're nobody, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of tough. But when you have family and friends that love you and support you, or you have this program that shows you that you have family and friends.
That you matter.
That you matter. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that you have value. Everybody has value, but everybody doesn't feel valuable. Everybody's lovable, but doesn't feel loved.
Definitely.
You know, and I think about the love languages aspect too, about the idea of having similar experiences and stuff. He talked about pride getting in the way and having to do this by himself. But sometimes, you know, when you love somebody, I'm not going to let you do. I don't care if you can do it by yourself. That's not the point. I know you can do it, but why should you?
Right.
That's part of the way, you know, we do this with each other. We do this for each other. And we've often thought about motivation as being, you know, we've been taught, especially if you grew up in a sports environment and stuff, you're always talking about pushing somebody. Well, pushing implies that the person behind is the one creating momentum. This model is more of one, like I said, it's side by side, but occasionally I've crawled farther up the mountain than you have. So I know how to get to that spot, and I can get there and I can reach back and help you. And it's foolish for you not to take my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Because my point behind this is not only do you deserve it, not only are you valuable, but the fact is I trust you that when the time comes for you to reach back to somebody else, you will. And so that's all this is. And ain't nobody giving you no charity. You know, I'm investing in you. We're investing in you. That's the whole point. It's not charity. It's not a handout. We might extend a handout, but we know you'll extend a handout when the time comes too.
So what do you think the Department of Corrections is doing right?
Ooh, I'm biased.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's why we want your opinion.
Okay. Trying to take the bias out. One thing I can say to MDOC is doing right, but needs a lot of improvement, is the programs.
Mm-hmm.
They're limited, they're restricted, and there's too many rules. There's too many barriers. I remember, again, I was preparing myself to be successful out here, so I know that I needed education. And there's so many barriers for us to educate ourselves. So much politics involved that it doesn't make any sense. When certain programs were being introduced, I couldn't go into because I had too much time. You had to be 2 years close to your release date in order for you to sign up for classes. I found that troubling because I needed the help now. I needed to be able to have time to practice what I've learned, to try to make it a part of me. There were times they had programs that I thought that would be really beneficial to me, and I was denied because I had too much time. I'm glad they started to, or certain facilities starting to allow inmates to facilitate classes. And this is where I met Adam. And how that story goes, I don't know if I share it now or later or whatever, but we ended up getting involved. Well, he ended up getting me involved in the self-help classes, and one class in particular, and I have to give this shout out, is Houses of Healing. This class was so fundamental to me in my changing the way that I think, learning myself, learning why I did the things that I did, dealing with trauma. And
did Adam lead that class? Is that
yes,
what? Yep. Okay.
Yes.
And what was the class again?
It's called Houses of Healing.
Okay.
But it goes around the concept or the theory, if you will. It's called the CBT theory, cognitive behavioral therapy or theory. It's basically if you can teach a person to think differently or show them to think differently, in essence, they will behave differently. So a lot of the material that the MDOC is allowing in goes with that model. So it's not just House of the Healing, it was all, but House of the Healing is what gave me the light bulb moment. So when certain facilities that are allowing it, because it's not MDOC as a whole, because you have different wardens and different assistant deputy wardens, they won't allow it. They don't have faith in it. The vocational aspect, MDOC is, I think that's a beautiful program if it's ran properly. It's not. I think you have to have people running these programs, they have to care. They have to care. They have to have the mindset of, I'm helping this individual become successful out there. They have to have the mindset of, well, if I don't help this individual learn a trade, give him some education, he can potentially be put back in my community, be my neighbor, break into my car, rob my home. So if they don't have that mindset, and a lot of them don't, the program is nothing. That's what I mean about MDOC. Can I actually classify it as something that they're doing is right? Honestly, no. No, they have these programs, they have these classes, but they're not implementing them. Mm-hmm. They're choosing the wrong individuals to control them.
Yeah, let me add something to that too, because a lot of what, the training is that we're up to something, that it isn't going to work. It isn't going to matter anyway. And so, it's the old computer programming, garbage in, garbage out. Unfortunately, I'm not saying this as a whole, because I think there's a new generation of people that are starting to come into the Department of Corrections, and they're coming in less with a criminal justice background and more with a social work background. And I think that's going to help. It makes people nervous because the people who have a criminal justice background get nervous when social workers start, running things. But I think it's necessary. And I'm going to give you an example of myself. I did 2 additional years in the department because of the fact that they couldn't possibly believe that I had done the good and the work that I'd done. And you want to know why I believe what I think the theory behind that is?
Why?
Because I think they know that they've got a crap product.
Yes.
And so if they know that they're not really putting in the work, and that they're like, this can't possibly be what it appears to be coming out the other side. And so, like I told you when we had our conversation, I got ridden out from 3 different facilities because I was doing too much good, because they couldn't possibly believe that was actually what I was doing. But this is what I think is the flaw in the logic. They will quickly go to this idea of the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior, which I agree with. But how far in my past are you going to go to decide what my future looks like?
Exactly.
If you don't look at the last 17 years of my incarceration and decide how I'm going to respond based on the actions of a 22, 23, 24-year-old individual, I ask you to go back to your last years in college.
Not even college.
Right.
Junior year of high school.
Right. Exactly. Think about these things. The fact is if you're willing to look, there are indicators from the past. And I did 17 years of doing the right thing. 17 years. My criminal history didn't last 17 years. Well, yeah, it did. Well, that's another story. That's a story for another day. But you get the point. You get the point. 17 years is nothing to sneeze at. And they still couldn't believe it because they know
that they didn't do it. They didn't have their hand in it.
Yeah, and they're not contributing as much as they possibly could do it. But I'll get off my soapbox.
So one final question for you.
That's it? I was just enjoying this.
I know. Well, let's do 2 then. How about that?
Okay.
Don't let him bully you.
I'm not a bully anymore.
When did you start to feel free?
I'm experiencing it every day.
That's great.
Like I say, I reflect. I give myself time, whether I'm laying in the bed or driving to work or trying to wind down from work. I think about everything that I'm grateful for. And that's part of being free. Physically, see, in prison, when I was already free years ago. I became free because I was free from my trauma. I was free from the issues that resonated or that developed from that trauma. And once I started dealing with them head on, honestly, I became free. I wasn't the angry guy anymore. I wasn't the hurt guy anymore. Yes, I had occasionally had thoughts, things that triggered certain memories. Yeah, I relive those experiences, but I didn't stay in them. So I believe that made me free from the physical aspect. That translated, that turned into physical too, even inside. But I think what you're asking me is, when did I actually notice that I was free? I think it was like maybe the 3rd or 4th day.
What were you doing?
I was sitting on the couch. TV wasn't on, sun rays coming down, and the blinds were just a little bit open where I can see birds, I can see the trees, and no one was telling me to go somewhere. Yeah, I sat on the couch. I actually put it on a post on Facebook, and it wasn't a picture of my face. It was a picture of me lounging on the couch with my foot up. And I think the caption I put on there is, I dreamt of days like this. That's when I noticed that I was free.
I like that because I think this happens in stages. We used to talk about in class in there a lot of times that everything you need in your life is already written in you. You just realize it in other ways. Life is about unfolding. So if you've got a piece of paper and it looks blank on the outside and you unfold it, you find things that are written on it. And so I think even the realization of freedom comes in stages and it comes in waves. Yes. And you have moments where you realize I'm free in this way, and then you realize that you're free in another way. And I'm going to share something. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I'm going to share something. Part of his wave of realization was at the 2-month mark.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He calls me up. He's like, I don't know what to do. This is the 2-month mark. Should I celebrate it? Should I do this? And I just sat, and he told me, I just need you to sit back and listen, because he knows I talk, and he knows that I will immediately start to advise if otherwise. He told me to listen, and I did listen, and I was processing this all as he's talking to me, and he had the realization that he had another level of freedom, and that this freedom was real. It wasn't transient like the past freedoms. So you don't celebrate at 2 months. 2 months ain't something to celebrate. It was something to reflect on. And that's what he did, is he reflected on it. Because when you're caught in this cycle and when you're going back and forth, 2 months is something to celebrate. My sister said one day at 9 months after I'd been home, you've got 3-month stretches. Because that was where the bar was at for a lot of my life. So freedom is something that I think that somebody who really gets deep and conscious and who's had their freedom taken from them and they've realized that they've surrendered a portion of their freedom, it resonates differently than us because many people take it for granted. They don't understand all the freedoms they have, so they don't have the same kind of epiphanies and things like that. I'm watching him unfold. I watched him unfold in prison because when I met him, he was not free. When I met him, he was very much held captive to a version of Q that he thought he had to be, which was a pain in the ass in my class, but a clever one. And I knew that clever could turn into wisdom. And so I saw it, I invested in him. And as soon as I invested in him, he started to realize that there was something worth investing in himself too. So that's the thing that I think sometimes we don't take for granted that the rest of the world does, is that we have the freedom to decide every single day and in every single moment how we approach something, how we approach other people, and how much space, we give it.
Yes. Speaking of epiphanies, right? So just to give you a little bit of more context, I'm driving. I can't even remember where I was actually going. And I realized that I was at 2 months. I immediately got bombarded with all type of emotions. I pulled over on the residential street, don't know who the house was, whatever, right? And I just started bawling. And I had to call my best friend and thank him. Yeah, I had to thank him for all the support, everything that he helped me overcome, and just being a best friend, a true best friend. And I called other individuals that helped, my transition. And I was just grateful. I was grateful. But like you said, I didn't know what to do. It was like, what do I do? I supposed to do this? Do I supposed to do that? And no, it was none of the above. It was just be grateful. And another, just to go back to your previous question, was when did I notice that I was free? That moment too. Like you said, they come in waves. That moment too. And the realization that I have choices, a lot of them. My choices were limited inside, but I have choices. And it makes me happy
It's
that
powerful.
I have so many. Yeah.
If there's one thing that you could tell someone else who's not yet paroled or on their way home, somebody who is just coming home, you pick your message, you pick your audience. What would you tell?
My audience is, if you're listening, if you're inside and you're able to hear my story, I know my story is not my own. I know now that there are many of us that have the similar story. Find your happy place. Educate yourself. Learn yourself. Be truthful with yourself. Ask the important questions. Don't be afraid of the answers. Find material that can assist you in finding those answers. Find you someone that you can confide in. No one that you're in competition with. No one that's part of that crowd or the other crowd. Someone that is truly looking out for your best interests. Whoever that be, embrace them. Pick their brain. Talk to them. Share what you're thinking. Because truth of the matter is, we really don't know how we're actually thinking until we speak it out loud. And if you have a friend that will not bullshit, is not the yes man and that can see through all the BS. Keep that individual because he will be a godsend for a lifetime. Take your time in there and out here. Create a support system. Find programs that can best assist you in being successful. If you're in Michigan, I don't care if you're in the county or not, A Brighter Way is one of those programs that you will actually feel like you are a human, like a person, part of the family. Take your time, question everything, and always think about the what ifs. Never forget where you came from, and always look forward. I guess that's what I can leave, or my message is for now.
Let me punctuate that from what I've kind of heard too. Be who you want others to be for you. I've told my brother this on occasion, and like you said about sometimes not really knowing how you think about something until you say it. If you allow yourself to be a free thinker, there's been many a times where I've said something and be like, damn, I ain't never thought about it like that before. Because I had to find words to be able to express it. And I've told my brother this many times. Stop worrying about impressing people and put work into being impressive. If you do that, you'll impress the right people, and the right people won't like you. Because there are some people out there flat out that if they like you, you know you're not doing the right thing. You're on some nonsense.
Yes.
So it's not only about who likes you, it's about who doesn't. Just be true to yourself. I mean, I don't believe in linear thinking. I don't believe that you have to do one before you do the other. Some people have to get their own house in order to be able to help others. Some people get their house in order by helping others. People are oriented different ways. So this idea that somehow you got to get all your mess together before you can help anybody else, I don't agree with. Because I'm going to go back to what Q said about CBT and houses of healing. What he didn't know was what I did with him was a different form because he was slick. He understood CBT. If I'd have took a CBT method with him, he'd have never responded to it because he'd have figured it out. What I did was a behavioral therapy model, which is not where you change the thought first. It's where you change the behavior first. So the first thing that I asked him to do is...
Well, I got bamboozled.
You got bamboozled and hoodwinked.
Yeah.
What I did is that I saw the potential. And the only way I was going to be able to show him the potential was to be able to get him on board so that he could figure these things out. So I asked him to help facilitate the class.
Put my feet to the fire.
Yeah.
And how'd you do? Amazing, right?
Yes. Not at first, but I succeeded, and that's where I fell in love with service. Yeah. Seeing individuals change. Not necessarily I'm watching them, but the face, those eyes, the facial expression. You seeing people come in with toe-up faces, putting on this macho persona and seeing it just go away.
Yeah.
Oh, priceless.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the questions I have for you. What questions do you have for us?
How did I do? My first time. This is a first experience for me.
Well, how do you feel?
I feel like I just had a conversation.
That's exactly what we wanted.
Okay.
That's all it's supposed to be.
You did perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Don't make his head get any bigger than it already is.
It's this hat is even getting tighter.
I'm telling you. I'm the one that's got to deal with him after we leave.
That's okay.
All right.
Thank you for sharing your story. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for allowing me to.
Absolutely.
Hope this is not the end. I have many more.
We got season 2 coming up.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Book me.
Thank you for listening to Conversations About a Brighter Way. Welcome home.
We would like to say thank you to the following. This podcast could not have been possible without Grove Studio providing the space So Grove Studios is in Ypsilanti, Michigan, provides 24/7 self-service, rehearsal, and creative studios for musicians, hip-hop producers, DJs, podcasters, photo, video, and live streaming production. Creatives from around Southeast Michigan have called Grove home since 2018. For more information and booking, check them out online at grovestudios.space. We'd like to thank Patrick Domingo with podcast creation and editing. The beautiful music you hear in the intro and thank yous was written and performed by Chelsea-based singer-songwriter Annie Capps. If you're looking for a rootsy vibe, a touch of twang, and a soulful groove, look no further. You can find her at anniecapps.com. That's ANNIECAPPS.com. We'd like to thank our individual donors. Without them, there could not be a brighter way. Therefore, there could not be a conversation about a brighter way. We're very grateful for their constant support and the way they speak to the stigma that exists in the community on a daily basis. We'd like to thank United Way of Washtenaw County, Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, Nation Outside, and to our volunteers, mentors, and mentees. A Brighter Way is a community, and we could not be a community without all of its participants. So we thank all of you. Thank you very much.
Wait, subscribe and follow us on social media so you don't miss out on a single episode. And visit the website uprighterway.org for donation opportunities. We plan to give you more conversations in Season 1, and if you want to reach out to ask questions or send comments, you can email volunteering@abrighterway.org. This is Robin.
And this is Adam.
Peace out.